Take the wheel, sir.
Oh, this
is your baby.
This is epic. So I logged on this morning to find this little gem in social media. Doc, throw this one up for us.
So good.
From Everytown, one of the biggest anti-gun groups out there. They posted this little nugget. Okay, myth. Strong gun laws don't work. Look at Chicago. Fact.
Yes, let's look.
Fact. Chicago proves why we must push for strong federal gun laws. Oh my goodness. So in the first statement, the myth, strong gun laws don't work. Look at Chicago. And then they say Chicago proves why we need strong gun laws. My goodness.
Interesting.
Where do these people come from?
They come from the Twitterverse. They exist in the Twitterverse. They've only been in the Twitterverse. That's where they live, Tim. They live in the Twitterverse, and that's it.
I guess so.
That's it.
And this is
because after all, look at Chicago.
I know.
hey, gun controllers.
This encapsulates their entire arguments. It truly does.
Gun controllers. Pro tip: don't reference Chicago. That's not your strong card. Don't go with that one.
It's a myth that strong gun laws don't work. They must, right? But they don't work in Chicago. But
they don't work there.
We need more gun laws because they're not working.
So we need them federally.
Yeah.
And of course, in all seriousness, of course, what they're aiming for here is it's okay. These laws would work perfectly in Chicago if only those pesky states around us didn't have freedom. So we need it federally. We need a federal law to support our local law, which doesn't work by itself. But then when brought together federally, it will all work magically.
Right.
I mean, that's what they're saying.
And when these stupid laws don't do anything, what are they going to do next? I mean, this is all part of their incremental plan, right? So every law they propose fails miserably. It always has. Matter of fact, if you take a look, like an overarching look over the last few decades, violent crime in the United States is trending downward. And as we've already shown in today's episode, gun ownership is skyrocketing. So if you take a look at that, if what these idiots are saying is true, then more guns should mean more chaos and crime. But the exact opposite is happening and has been for decades. More guns are in the hands of Americans and less violent crime. And it goes to a point earlier in the video today talking about how all of this is just being blown out of proportion. And so when they talk about these mass shootings, they have Americans absolutely convinced that behind every tree there's lurking AR-15, nobody pulling the trigger, mind you. It's the evil AR-15 doing all these things.
It's just there.
And it's going to jump out and get you at any moment because we are living in fear in America of walking outside and being gunned down by a mass shooter. False, because it just isn't that common as the judge noted. It just isn't. But they'll sensationalize every one that happens to scare people into voting for their totalitarianism. And that's all this is. They're trying to scare you into giving up your numbers.
I completely agree. And to give some numbers and context of what Tim's talking about, I covered this actually last night on my channel. 60 million guns were purchased during the pandemic. 60 million.
Man.
And if you look at the actual statistics from Gun Violence Archive, which is a far left progressive gun grabbing manipulation propaganda site, their numbers show a 20% decline this year in homicides and in suicides. So you tell me how that jives and checks, Tim, if the entire time you've been telling me guns are the problem and there's a direct correlation between more guns equals more crime, how then do we have more guns at a rate of 60 million and we have a decline of 20% year over year?
Right. And this is what they will never talk about. And this is why I throw in their face on X and everywhere else. I keep throwing it in their face. They have no defense to that fact. They just don't. All they can do is just keep screaming from the tops of mountains that, and screaming at the sky, we need gun control. It doesn't work, but we need more laws. Just look at Chicago.
Look at Chicago. Look at Chicago. It's so great. It works.